It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Hey, we're podcasting again. We got Peter Lawrence with us.
Hi there.
Say hi, Peter. And Eric Schneider. And I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about kind of the change, I don't know, the history, evolution of, that's the word, evolution of security, because I'm working on it right now. Like, it's just a constant, I think
security is a constant battle.
And there's so much to it. There's so much to know. It's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. At some places, it's a full-time job with a floor full of people working on it. So we rely on cloud providers and things like that, but they only take you so far. And then their responsibility is on you to pay to get to the next level or configure to the next level. But I remember when you could just not even log in. You just open up your computer. Like, what happened to those days? When was that?
It's in my family. It still exists. Over Christmas, we were helping my grandmother set up her new cell phone, and the way she got into her old cell phone was just like swiping.
Yeah.
Just swipe the lock screen away. No pass key. No fingerprint. No face scanning. Nothing.
No. Clear that right off.
And I'm like, well, what if somebody steals your phone? Then they're going to get into your banking app and all that stuff. And foolish of me to assume that she would use a banking application.
The best security is have nothing that's worth stealing, right?
Yeah, they use their phones to text photos of grandkids around, and using Craigslist to look for car parts, and that's it.
Oh, nice.
So nothing there to steal, really.
I remember those days too, when I had nothing to steal on my phone and didn't really have anything I worried about or cared about or anything like that.
Yeah, that was my policy too. Because I had a tablet that stayed at home and I had my phone. I'm like, well, my phone's going to go the things that's going to go missing, and so I tried to put nothing on my phone, and that didn't last the test of time though.
No.
Yeah, and I think I don't know where the trust happened. Where I think it was convenience that drove a lot of this stuff, and it was ahead of the security. Like, we're all in, but the security has to catch up. And is it ever going to? Like, are we ever going to get to a point where we're good? Is that where it's the chip in your head and some kind of perfect identification system, perfect security?
Because I assume there'll always be the next exploit, and sometimes it's just so simple that you just don't anticipate it. Like, I don't know if you've seen the news that people are stealing cars because if you leave your because you have keyless entry and your key is near the door, someone can walk up to your door with a laptop and echo the key fob through their laptop to their car, unlock it, and start the engine and drive away. They
have this repeater. They get close to your keys, between your keys and your car. That's
so elegant and simple, but nobody saw it coming somehow.
It's just a repeater.
I mean, it's almost impossible, right? I mean, and car security, I think, has always lagged behind everything. House security. There's never been a deadbolt on a car. There's never been a extra lock or anything like that. It's always been a key, and then they've gone to fobs and I mean, some companies have passcodes, right? You can put in your PIN and open up the doors and get in. They've always kind of lagged behind because just nobody really thought. And part of it is cost, and part of it is just really, I don't know, lacks engineering, I guess.
Well, I think there's a resource problem where you're not a big company. You can't afford a whole bunch of security experts. You're kind of relying on your IT guy who doesn't have a wealth of a history of being a security expert. So, I like cloud services because I figure that they have a lot more at stake and they have a lot more security experts than us.
One would hope, yes. I thought you were talking about back to cars, and I'm like, what?
Oh
no.
Well, in terms of physical security, I've never been, every time I've ever been locked out of my house, I've gotten in within 60 seconds. Just a good hip check to the door, there's an Axley in there. I'll just knock the doorknob off. And if people want to get in bad enough, they will usually find a way.
Yeah, that's the thing with cars, right? Like at the end of the day, even if the locks are super great, you can still just knock the window in.
Right. Or pick it up and carry it somewhere else.
Yeah. Plus, plus we've all seen videos of people that use those little airbags now to jimmy the door. And if you lock your keys in your car and the Pro comes out, it takes them like literally a minute to do it.
That's what they use. Yep.
Yeah, it's just rudimentary tools.
And like even breaking in school is on YouTube. Like the lockpick lawyer guy who shows you how to get into every single padlock that's ever been made.
Well, I think that's the interesting part about cars is that yeah, like if you follow him, you think like, oh well, the thieves are going to use, I forget what they're called, but those specialized tools that's like
there's a bump key and there's lock picks. Because
he sells keys that are like for a model of car, you can use it and it's like a real elegant key pick that anybody can use. Like, oh well, experts will use those. No, like my mom locked her key in the car. The guy showed up with the airbag and just forced the door open and stuck a stick in the door.
Right.
Push the button. That was it.
Push the button. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
So I think we're clear that cars are a little bit behind in the security game. We can't be that far behind in the security game, and we've watched the security game move from wide open laptops. I don't know if you guys were around in the days of pranking someone if they left their machine unlocked and you would change their background to, I don't know, David Hasselhoff or...
Oh, no. What you do is you take a screenshot of their desktop.
Of their screen.
Then you hide their desktop icons and make the screenshot their background.
Yeah.
And then you create a support ticket for yourself to have to go fix. When nothing's opening on my computer. Yeah. At least that's what I used to do when people wouldn't lock their machines as a reminder for them to do it.
Exactly. I mean, it was a fun game as a reminder to get everybody to lock their machines when they walk away. And it's become easier and easier to lock your machine. And sometimes you've got, proximity devices with Bluetooth and stuff like that just to have the machine lock itself. But back in the day, simple rudimentary passwords that never changed, right? Password was good from the day you started till, the day your account got deleted, your password was the same. And nowadays, everybody has rules to change your passwords or not change your passwords depending on who you talk to, right?
There's been some back and forth on that. It's like the brute force is not going to work because they shut it down. Like when it starts happening, they recognize it's happening and they stop it. So the ability to make a billion tries to get it right, to get into your system, they're safeguarding against that sort of thing. So the actual password changing, it's better for people to remember the password so they're not writing it down and things like that. But I think the strength of the password is important more than it changing. It's like, it changes every 90 days. Mm-hmm. It's like, so if somebody gets your password, are they going to wait 90 days to do something with it? Or are they going to get right into your account? Like, what's that delay going to do for you? One of the things is the ability for the technology to interact with the physical world, which has given us the biometric stuff. If your system can see what's happening in the room and who's in the room and all of that, if it's got like total situational awareness, where it's like, no, you're not Kyle. Well, I made a printout of his face. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm a super AI quantum computer, and I know that's a piece of paper. Nice try.
Well, yeah, but that's what I always wonder about especially like copycat, like because Apple will come out with Face ID and they do a good job of thinking it through. Like you're saying, like it doesn't work if it's a flat object. It can tell the difference. You have to be engaged. You have to, like, your eyeballs have to be looking at it, so you can't do it when you're asleep and stuff like that, right? Like they do a good job thinking it through, but then it becomes an arms race of other companies trying to copycat it. And how secure are those, like the copy versions of that service, right? Because it seems like every laptop's got wants to do like unlock using your face, but I never trust that those are actually secure enough to matter.
You think people are taking pictures of you and walking around unlocking laptops that you've been on? And
they don't even have to take a picture. There's plenty of pic of my face on my wife's Facebook account.
Yeah, we're all out there.
Yeah,
we didn't realize how bad that was until it was too late and they got all our stuff.
So let me ask this question. I feel most of the time, most of the days that I walk this earth, I'm in Eric's grandma's shoes where I don't have anything that they want to take. My credit cards are scattered to the wind. Those are all out on websites that hopefully are doing some sort of security. But most of the things on my computer are locked down, and you have to get into the password keeper to get through anything.
And I think the sheer number of accounts, like sites you're interacting with, you hear about, like just today, Randy posted that leak in the announcement channel by accident. I think he meant to do it in random. But it was a like 60 billion password or something were leaked
71
today.
million.
And it's like, oh, okay, now I have to go. When I look at the list of my saved passwords for different accounts, unbelievably long. So it's like to go in and reset, if my password gets out there, it's go in and reset the password for every single account you have. And then, I've done that before and it's not fun. So, now we have multi-factor, which is like, we're not going to just trust that you type something in, and we're not going to just trust what's happening on this one device, but we also need something from the physical world. We need we need another device. We need your fingerprint, your thumbprint, whatever. Where does that lead?
Well, hopefully not to the chips in our heads being used for security, but I think a lot of this is a balancing act, right? Could you make a phone that somebody had, I saw this meme one time that had a grid of like 100 dots, and their password had a pattern that connected to every single dot. That was their password. That's not very convenient. That's more of yes, this is a very secure password, but I have to be able to enter the password more than one time in my life.
Well, that's where you get to the law of diminishing return, because you create this system where people can create these complex patterns, but it's so difficult to remember that you create a dead simple pattern. And so like this attempt to be more secure has backfired, because now they've studied this and found that these are the most likely patterns that people would use that they can try.
Yeah, because of human nature, right? Tend to do the same
path
thing.
Of least resistance.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I know that's hopefully will change at some point. I don't know what the state of it is they're trying to make it, so I guess as context, because I got tired of the game that Kyle was talking about of like, oh, my password got leaked, or my someone managed to log into my Facebook account and every single account's got the same password. Is like, I'm only going to change all these once, so I just changed everything to different passwords using a password manager. So at least if something gets leaked, they only have to change it once because everything is unique. But that idea of you've got a master password that then from that you derive other passwords is a fairly sound idea, because then each of those vendors, like each of the places you have an account with, they only get the derived password, not your master password that they're actually using everywhere. And I think that there's a protocol or like a standard that's like been proposed to do that some of the big tech companies are trying to adopt. And I don't know when it's going to roll out, but that'll be a pretty big deal where, from like, we're building systems, right? So like it'd be nice for us if we're receiving is, some hashed password, and we're not responsible for the fact that password might get used for someone else, for somebody's like, banking account. It's only for us and us alone. That there is some security in that.
Well, and credit card companies do that today, right? So if I save my credit card company at Amazon, for example, Amazon's not storing the 16-digit number and the 3-digit CVV on the back and the whatever other information that they needed to validate it. They've sent that off to the credit card company, and the credit card company said, here's a token, store that and use that for other things. And we'll allow that token to go through. And that way, they've done a good job of not, every company has a different password that comes to, Amazon's token is different than Target's token or whoever. Right?
And some of the credit card vendors that like even those tokens are time boxed where you're just going through like a guest checkout, and so when you put your stuff in, you do get a token and you can use it for this transaction and that alone, and it doesn't work going forward. So even if the token got stolen, it's useless after today.
So what's the I guess onus on these companies that you're doing business with, you're interacting with? If your stuff gets out there and someone uses it to get in your system, that's not on them. Like, they've gotten that some other way. But if they're hacked and they're storing your information and it gets out, 71 billion passwords or whatever, like what are you going to do? Like, what's everybody's got to change their password, and of course they've got to go ahead.
You don't store the password. And I think you are alluding to that, Eric, is that you store a one-way hash of the password. I can have somebody do something and it will produce this magic number, but I can't take that magic number and produce the password that they use, right? There's just mathematically, let's just say a very few paths back, right? Even if you know all the algorithms, all the magic on both sides, and as a developer, I've done that a lot, right? I don't store passwords in clear text anymore. I haven't stored passwords in clear text for, I don't know, probably since the first hack that somebody stole passwords that were stored in clear text.
Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say for at least the last 6 weeks.
No, it's been more like 10 or 15 years that storing passwords in clear text is a bad idea. It's an inexperienced programmer idea.
Yeah. Well, I've had, I guess the trouble is we've had customers who that's effectively what they were demanding. Like, well, we got people who can't remember their password. We need to be able to look it up for them. Nope. And a consultant or a developer or somebody who's not willing to push back on that idea would just do it, right? Because that's the business requirement.
Well, you can reset it. You can set it to something, but you can't tell them what it was.
Right. But that's what I say. Like companies who are like my grandma who are used to the plain text era, who still want that functionality.
Yeah.
And we're trying to work with them to say, no, it needs to be one way. It needs to be irrecoverable. It needs to be we can give them a tool, a self-service tool for recovering, or you do it, but you can overwrite it, but not learn what it was.
Right. And
especially like I was saying, in like liability, like you don't want to, I don't even want to know. Like, I don't want to know what password you used for my site because you probably used it somewhere else. And I don't even want to have that liability of knowing what your email password is and your bank password and all that is.
Right. I mean, if there's a big building and there's theft, first people you look at are the security guards because they have access. Like, you don't want to know. You don't want to be on a list of possible suspects because someone told you their password and they didn't change it.
Well, and speaking of that, that's been a life change, a environment change in IT as well, right? You don't ask for anybody's password anymore. You don't say, hey, give me your password. I need to unlock your computer or anything like that. It's exceedingly rare to need a different password. And if you need a service account password or a system password, you don't even store that in, that gets stored encrypted too. So you don't have access to it. You just have a way to get a token to use it one time, or for the next 10 minutes, you can use this one. And, that has changed so dramatically. In the old days, it used to be like, here's the admin password for the network. And they just handed it out to IT people. It wasn't on a printed card exactly or laminated, but it may as well have been.
Yeah. And there's that like necessity and convenience. And, there's that struggle with people that, they don't want to do it. They're going to come up with every reason possible to say, no, I don't want to have to grab my phone every time. I don't want to have to do this I don't want to have to remember every password and type it in. I don't want to have to remember the master password on my LastPass account because if I forget that, game over. And that's the thing, like it gets so secure that if you forget something, if you miss a key piece of information and you get locked out of your own stuff, good luck getting back in.
Yeah, I've some family, I keep talking about my family, but yeah, some of my family members have gotten locked out of their Google accounts. It's a nightmare.
Right.
Like He's like, it starts involving like snail mail, basically. Like, we're going to help you, but we're going to do it at an incredibly slow pace on purpose so that it's not worth people trying to exploit this process.
Well, yeah, and that's how it should be, right? It should be a slow, painful process. Yes, I really need my, Gmail account right now for this one thing, but if you really needed it that badly, you shouldn't have lost it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't tell you how many times in-laws have asked me what their password is. Computers.
And you remember.
But yeah, well, it's probably the name of their dog and then the year they were born.
No, that's good. That gets stored in Password Manager too. But that's only because you're going to be asked for it later on. But that's only family stuff. I do not write down, memorize, commit to memory any password at a client ever again. It's like, nope, I don't know any passwords. I don't want to know any passwords. I don't, if you don't want me to have access to that system, I don't want me to have access to that system because yes, it would be easier. Yes, it would be a million times faster, but then it's a million times more that I'm responsible for being there and having that access. And it's just not worth it anymore. In the old days of having admin passwords and admin account access, with the exception of Kyle, who happens to be our admin, and me that happens to have an admin, and Eric, who probably happens to have an admin account too. So here or there, it's just not worth having it if you're not supposed to anymore.
Yeah. Well, I have the people that are my backup admins I've known for 13 years, 12 years and worked with and completely. And that's it. You keep the circle small, and you have to be willing to make more work for yourself in IT. You have to risk, creating problems because people have to do more. There's more points of failure and more confusion and questions and all of that. And so you have to address all of it and be ready to solve every problem. Okay, what are all the possible scenarios that could happen? I'm going to have to help someone out.
Right.
Or where they could get locked out to the point where you have to, get a lawyer to work with Google. And I don't know who, but just to get back into your stuff, you have to answer 20 secret questions. And I used to answer secret questions with completely wrong answers.
Of course.
Like, who's your 5th grade science teacher? Sponge cake. And that's not it. I never use that. Don't get any ideas. Don't even try.
I'm taking
a minute. Let me write this down. Sponge. Got it.
What I don't like is when I can't enter a 25, 30 character passphrase. They limit me and they say, oh no, your password can't be more than 16 characters.
That's not a good sign because when you hash it, it becomes a fixed length. So that's a good sign they're doing something wrong on their end.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is when they're behind the times, it's I want to do multi-factor on everything. Well, we're not set up for that yet. Do we stop doing business, or are you going to get there? What's the risk we're looking at? Well, we're not going to have that in 2 years from now, or until 2 years from now. It's okay, we have to move solution or whatever that's more secure. And I think that not being secure enough is going to hurt business for companies because of that.
Well, it's a risk, right? And that's where a lot of challenges is mitigating that risk. And I know that the easiest way to mitigate risk is to say, yes, you have to have the most secure thing possible, right? It's very easy for, some company to say, in order for us to do business, you have to have fingerprint, iris, heat-sensitive palm print, and a PIN, and a username. If you have all 5 of those things, then you can get in. Well, that's just not super helpful either.
Right. So I think it's also important, not to have anything to steal. And sorry, someone just tried to call me. Not having anything to steal, not putting a target on your back. A good sign that you have stuff that somebody might want to take is mounting cameras all over your house, and a fence, and motion detectors, lights, all that stuff. It's what do you have in there? Why is your house like Fort Knox?
Remember when the LifeLock had their social security number published.
Yeah, on the side of a truck.
Yeah.
On the side of a truck. Yeah.
Super Bowl commercial. Like, how long did it take?
Not as long as they were hoping.
The CEO's actual social security number.
Yeah, they regretted it.
And they're like trying to be the biggest security player in the world.
I'm sure somebody.
And there was no one that could talk them out of it.
Sure, the IT guys were like, no, please no. That's our job, right? Is to try to mitigate the risk and talk people out of things. Store passwords in one-way hashes and store credit cards in the industry standard way, and follow all the latest news. Length of password. Remember when 5 or 6 characters was enough, and then 8, then 12, then I'm not even sure what we're up to now. But
well, I think we've all seen the graphic of how long would it take to hack this password, and now like 8 characters is like 10 minutes, and if it's 20 characters, it's a billion years.
Right.
It's like, well, how long is that going to last? What happens when we can have more than, ones and zeros?
Right.
Right. Well, and to the point earlier about like some systems will prevent brute forcing, right? Because that assumes that you can brute force, and some systems will prevent it. But if you're using the same password everywhere, going back to that, then all it takes is any one of those systems to allow it, and somebody break into that one thing, and then it doesn't matter how secure everything else is, then somebody can get in.
Never, ever, ever. Never have I in a very long time used the same password.
So you want people to be secure. You want people to not get tricked by phishing emails, and you want people not to have their password written under their keyboard and all of that. But you don't want them to be scared like every day and paranoid. Like, how much paranoia is a good thing versus I've had calls like 8 o'clock at night. I got this thing, this happened. Okay, that's fine. It's that's not a big deal. You're talking someone down from the ledge. You don't want to do that to your people. You don't want to scare them so much that you're and I'm okay with the occasional, like, if someone's really that worried, I'm not really on call, but I will take the call and it won't bother me that much. Like, I don't want them to be, pulling their hair out and not sleeping over something. So where's the balance?
I don't know. I feel like we're approaching it. We're getting pretty close to the balance with multi-factor. I think a good, solid multi-factor authentication form, it's got, physical, you have to have something physical, something mental to put them together and get access to a system. I think obviously if somebody breaks that, that's going to be really bad. But I feel like that has always been sort of the gold standard, right? Is like a key and a password. You have to have both, or a special super encrypted key and a password. That way, if you lose the super duper encrypted key, you get to go reset all your passwords. But at the same time, you don't have that problem. I don't know. I don't think Face ID is going to be like the winner of the contest.
No.
The advantage Face ID has is there's consumer value in the convenience, right? Like, it doesn't feel like an obstacle. It feels a little more magical.
Yep.
And so it wins in that regard, that if it is heightening security, but actually like consumers will covet it for the like convenience it provides, it's actually great. It's a win for both sides.
So when you're using your phone as your second factor of authentication, and then you have the app on your phone, so I can log in on my phone because the password's saved, and then it prompts me and I can hit the button. Like, that's not really 2 factors. So, there's tokens, there's little, key fobs and things that you can use that'll generate codes and stuff like that. Yep. So do you see that kind of becoming, your phone becomes your primary device? Now you have a problem using your phone for multi-factor. So how is that problem going to be solved?
Oh, go ahead, Peter.
I think one of the benefits of the phone is that it's gotten fairly ubiquitous, right? It's not like some other technology that you have to pass out. It's not, I don't know if you remember the days of Secure ID and those kinds of things where you had to pass out a fob, and then if they got out of sync for whatever reason, you had to call in, resynchronize, do that kind of thing. It was great great security. It locked me out of my system many times. Prevented my access. I could not get around it. But it's a cost-effective thing, right? If somebody has a phone, you don't have to provide them another phone. Then you've got to win.
It's almost like it has to be more of a hassle. If it's no hassle at all, then it's easier to exploit it. It's like, okay, now I have to have my phone with me. Now I have to do this. Now I have to do that. Well, those things are deliberate to make it difficult or impossible for someone to exploit your accounts or hack into your stuff. But then people have to get used to that, and they will.
And phones break.
So you have to have a plan for your user. Like, okay, here's what can happen. And here's what you do, and here's what you can expect, and you try to head all that stuff out off at the pass.
Mm-hmm.
And you email out that information and text it and all of that, and then they won't read it because they scan, they don't read anymore, which is just how humans are evolving with technology and all of the information they have to take in. So, but after a while, it's going to calm down and people get used to it, and I think it'll be fine. I don't really mind like that second prompt. I have my screen shuts down as soon as I leave this office. It's like 5 minutes. I had it 1 minute for a while because I was like, well, how bad will this be? It's not really that bad because how often are you back and forth on your computer? I mean, when you're here, I walk by your laptops and, there's a 50-50 chance you'll be sitting there. So you're up and down, but I don't see your systems sitting there unlocked. Like, I don't think I've ever looked at, oh, there's Peter's stuff and it's wide open. I need to sit down and start messing with him, dole out the punishment.
No, and I have gone to the 1 minute setting, which is really, really annoying to myself, but it's more effective than somebody has a 1 minute opportunity to break into my system. I figure that's short enough.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to stare at the ceiling for 61 seconds. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. So my habit has just been, somebody taught me that you just, if you're on Windows at least, I'm sure there's a Mac one too, is just use this keyboard shortcut.
Yep.
To lock it
Windows,
as I walk. Windows L.
Windows key L.
Yeah, as you walk away. That's been my habit. Which is not perfect. I've definitely have walked away and forgotten to lock it, but I heard or read somewhere that it's because people get used to stuff, they get relaxed and they let their guard down, and then something happens. So it's more likely for people that have been with you a long time and got their security training 5 years ago versus the person that got it in their first year.
Right.
They're going to be more likely to remember. So having, I guess, the refresh, the reminders, that kind of stuff is a good idea. And I've been thinking about that more as like just a automated thing that sends out a reminder. Don't click anything. Float over it. Don't trust anyone. Yeah. Lock your stuff up.
So Eric, you were holding up a device. Which one was that?
The YubiKey is
YubiKey? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Which so like if these are like, you can see the little hole in it, like you're supposed to put these in your keychain. That I don't feel as great about, the idea that you'd carry it around with you all the time. So I like them from the standpoint of like, well, because there's security from a network perspective. Like people could hack into any of my cloud accounts remotely without physically coming to where I am. Right. I feel like if someone's willing to come to my house, break into my house, steal my YubiKey, they can have it, I guess. Right. Like there's a level of effort there. There's a bar. There's such a higher bar in that level of security that if it's nice to have a physical device that's at home that doesn't move and you can, and the convenience is there in terms of like when you get the prompt for it, you just tap the key. It's not a fingerprint scan. It's not anything that's like a biometric. It's just the fact that it physically is here versus anywhere else in the world. Is extremely convenient, honestly.
Yeah.
I just wish they were more broadly supported than they are. The authenticator apps for phones are seem to be the baseline instead of something like a YubiKey.
Right. You just need to have your authenticator take a YubiKey and then you're set.
Yeah. I mean, it would be something to have it if it was like built into the phone in some way where it was more secure. Because that's even with the authenticator apps, you can usually like layer in the biometrics on top of it, which is helpful. Right. Like having a YubiKey with the phone's biometrics would be extremely valuable honestly.
Yeah.
And iPhone has that with the like secure enclave, where like the data that's in there never leaves the device. Like your Face ID data doesn't leave the device.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if they open that up to that to that type of purpose, that would actually be fantastic. But I don't think you can use it for third party things.
No, not yet.
I like the idea of tap and go, where you have a card reader, you walk up. But I think like this should have a thumbprint sensor on it. So you have to grab it and you tap and you're good. And it's natural because you do that anyway. But if you lose this, it still needs that second factor, and it's all built into one card. So somebody just got $1 billion idea, and I just want 10%. That's all I'm asking.
10%. All right.
Yeah. But it's like that physical thing, like you're saying with the USB device. But again, it's got to be convenient, and there's got to be a plan if somebody forgets it, because they still got to do work and they live in, 40 minutes away on a good day. So it's like, well, just add another like 80 minutes to your day going and getting your card.
And that's what makes security hard, right? Is that you can make good enough security that it would take 4 hours out of everyone's day to do, unlocking and relocking, but nobody wants to. That's too high a cost. The multi-key things for the movie nuclear rockets or whatever. That's a
two keys.
Yeah.
And no one can make a big stick that has a dial and gears that'll turn 2 keys at the same time with adjustable length.
But you had to go through a lot of other gates to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So,
it was in a suitcase that was handcuffed to some guy who's really good at martial arts.
Right.
Make it not worth the effort. It's like, this is just not worth it. These cars are like, you look at the cars that have like the car theft that's been going on. They go after pretty specific models of cars, and
because on those models the bar is lower, right?
Yeah, it's like
literally a USB thumb drive, not a special one, just anything that has the USB A. Just ram it in the ignition or whatever and turn it, and then you're.
I was a Kia or something, or
that's what I'm talking about, and which is the good example of government oversight when that's happening, and the government can step in and say like you need to provide a fix for that, or when the door falls off your Boeing 747, it's good when the government could come in and be like, we're gonna not let you fly that plane until you figure out why that door fell off.
Until you know why the door flies off in the middle. Yeah. And that's just a thing that I think security researchers prove how hard security is, because they try almost all the things that QA does, and then they go about 400 times farther than that, right? To see if you accidentally left, one little part open.
Yeah, nobody at Kia thought to stick a USB thumb drive in the ignition before they sold the car.
And that's just never going to happen. Like, there's just things that are going to get missed, and it's just a fact of life, I think.
Right.
But, that's a good point, like where the technology meets the physical world. Now you have a way in. Now I can go in and I can reheat your oven, turn it up to 6 billion degrees, and because I hacked into your IoT house and your smart fridge and all that stuff.
If you yell Alexa, open the garage door loud enough from outside.
I saw a news story or something where a guy was showing how easy it was to hack into this specific type of car, and he did it and was able to mess with it, turn it off, and then realize that he just had created this, because he did it with a real car that was out there, and he realized in demonstrating that, he just violated why you don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. You put someone's life at risk in this demo, inadvertently. But it was, seeing that happen, it's like, okay, I'm always going to drive, a car from the 1970s. What do I have to do to keep that thing running?
No, but I do think that, cars are becoming a lot like cell phones, right? You're getting a lot of applications and a lot of personal information tied into that thing, and that you're just going to have to especially careful and cognizant of what you're doing. And, sometimes maybe you don't put your credit card in your, you don't leave it on the dash because somebody will break a window to get it. You don't necessarily leave it in your car because somebody might break into your car and get it.
Well, and you have to, I think a good idea is to come up with a plan, come up with routines. Like, I don't ever want to leave my phone. So it's like I have a checklist. I don't ever want to leave this home.
No.
Because I live, 4.5 miles away, and that's horrible. It's like, so I have all these routines and stuff, and then I have systems for passwords for different accounts and things like that. And I'm going to be, moving that to a password manager for my personal accounts. And, the trust, you have to realize, what is a hubris? Which is, it'll never happen to me.
Right.
I'm fine. And you can't think that way. You kind of have to do the work and go through the pain to get, okay, so I don't carry all my credit cards. I don't use my debit card for online purchases. I don't use the same password for multiple accounts. It's like you come up with a set of rules and then behavior. Like, I avoid these things on the internet. I make sure the site is secure and the certificate's secure. I make sure that I'm blocking certain things. And, if you're not doing any of that, I think that you need to start.
Yeah. And it is human nature to learn the hard way, I came home from the movies with my daughter, and I asked her to put her blanket back in her room, and she put it over her head like a ghost and walked directly into the stove. She's not gonna do that again, but she had to do it once to learn not to do that, right? So
yeah.
And I'm the same way. Like, I had my social media account broken into twice, and like, well, that's enough of that, and that's what finally motivated me to start using a password manager, because I had to keep and it's always the most inconvenient time. Like, it happens, and I'm like, I don't have time to deal with this right now, but I have to.
Yeah,
so
I have
like,
no choice.
So deal with it, and then yeah, and I'm like, I'm going to sit down on a Saturday and just truck through every password and reset them all and put them in this thing and just be done with it. And it's worth it in the end. It's definitely worth it, but it takes time to get it set up and everything. But now I can lord over all the people that haven't done it, though.
Yeah.
So there's that advantage.
Hold your head up high, walk proudly.
Yep.
And ask that question, are you doing multi-factor? Well, I am.
Right.
Do you have a password manager? Well, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of how people learn. And it's, the shame of it, the pain, avoiding it's pain and pleasure. You got to get over it. If you can figure out how to learn from the mistakes of others without having to feel that pain yourself, then you're winning.
That's the easy way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I had a good friend who fell for one of those like money whatever the money order scams or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad that you had to learn that lesson, and I can learn it by proxy.
Thank you for blazing that trail so that I don't have to.
Yep.
Or the unclaimed money scam. Hey, we found that you have unclaimed money.
Right.
Click here and to get it back. Don't trust anything. That's my final word. You guys got any parting thoughts?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I think I was gonna say the we've already said it, but yeah, password manager all the way, honestly, and having every account be a unique password and that's auto generated by the password manager is where it's at. And if I was president for a day, the thing I would make all the companies do is, if I have to log in on my TV by typing my password in, I'm gonna just nuke that company. So they all need to have the thing where it comes up and I can just the QR code that has the code or whatever baked in. So I just scan it with my phone. I'm already logged in on my phone, so it just auto logs in my TV. That needs to be the standard. So any companies out there that have TV apps, that's my advice to you.
Awesome.
That is a parting thought.
Yeah.
My parting thought is security is hard, but it's a lot easier than not having security.
Well, I'm going to vote for you for president, Eric. And,
I only want to do it for a day, not 4 years. That's too much.
1 day. Term limits. All right. Well, let's shut her down. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.